Thank you, William. Well, everyone active on the Peterborough political scene has been preparing for this by-election for months. At long last, the people of this city can choose a new MP to offer proper representation in the House of Commons. I'm proud to be the Social Democratic Party candidate, standing on a platform of supporting a full and immediate Brexit, but ending austerity and investing more in key public services too. As an MEP, and thanks to Theresa May's abject failure to get us out of the EU, I still am one. I've been based here in Peterborough for 5 years. Before that, I was the journalist who began the Daily Express campaign to get Britain out of the EU way back in 2010, gaining the support of hundreds of thousands of people. In the EU referendum, I worked with people from other parties, both nationwide and here in Peterborough, to help deliver the victory for Leave by 52% nationwide, more than 60% here. I was the only MEP elected under the UKIP ticket to defy Nigel Farage's instruction to support first Leave.eu and then Grassroots Out to be the designated Leave campaign. I alone supported Vote Leave because I knew it had a much better chance of building a broad enough coalition of voters to win, and I was right about that. I left UKIP in protest at its current leader's fraternisation with Tommy Robinson and his elevating of his anti-Islam views over his pro-Brexit ones before Nigel Farage left for the same reasons, and I was not therefore among the procession that obediently followed Nigel out the door. So I've demonstrated time and again that I'm my own man. And yet I'm a strong admirer of Nigel's contribution to the Brexit cause, and in fact an enthusiastic backer of his Brexit party in the European elections. I hope it wins them by a landslide, and I think that it will. So it would have been easy for me to duck out of this by-election to give Nigel's chosen candidate, whoever that turns out to be, a clear run, but I decided not to do that for two principal reasons. First, I told the people of Peterborough that I would stand to offer them a credible pro-Brexit candidate who did not bind them into a full slate of right-wing Thatcherite views on other issues. But secondly, because I want to throw down a particular gauntlet to the Brexit Party and indeed to Nigel. Over the next few weeks, I want to make him do something I know he will not want to do, and that is to drop his decades-long antipathy to our National Health Service, funded out of taxation, organised by the state, and free at the point of need, to abandon his preference for an American-style private insurance model of healthcare, and to make an unqualified commitment that his Brexit party will always support the NHS and extra investment into the NHS and oppose its privatisation. Nigel has spoken in recent days about his ambition to run a full slate of candidates for the Brexit party at the next general election if a proper Brexit has not been delivered, and to win that election in the name of democracy, turfing out hundreds of Tory and Labour MPs who failed to honour manifesto promises to deliver Brexit. Many voters, me included, would consider that an exciting prospect. Perhaps at last we could also get a democratic voting system that allows smaller parties with new ideas to flourish and gain the parliamentary representation their underlying support merits. But I tell him he will never achieve such a victory and never harness the full potential of the pro-Brexit vote in this country in domestic elections so long as people are unclear about his party's commitment and his personal commitment to the National Health Service. It's rightly considered by the vast majority of British citizens to be the jewel in the crown of our public services and the benchmark of our civilised society. It also, by the way, offers excellent value for money compared to other funding models, especially the American one. I was recently privileged as a local elected representative to be given a guided tour of Peterborough Hospital by its senior leadership team, by Caroline Walker and Rob Hughes. They're doing a fantastic job, but they're operating in one of the fastest growing cities in the entire country, and their funding is extremely stretched. They need more resources. So to try and make this parliamentary by-election a single issue vote about Brexit alone will not wash. the next MP for Peterborough will need to represent the city across the entire range of political issues, making the argument for extra resources and new approaches in the area of law and order too, for example, amid a desperately worrying upsurge in violent crime, especially knife crime, on our city's streets. Peterborough needs and deserves an MP who is genuinely committed to its overwhelming vote to leave the EU and leave it properly. And I note, by the way, that the Conservative Party candidate has still not uttered a word of criticism of Mrs May's surrender document, and that the Labour candidate wants to block Brexit altogether. But Peterborough also needs an MP who will stand steadfast behind its wonderful and dedicated public servants, including those who work for the NHS. An MP who does not just pay lip service to supporting the NHS, but who really means it. I am that candidate, and the Social Democrats are that party. If over the course of the next month, other candidates from other parties convincingly adopt our position on these two great issues, we will take that as a compliment and know that our political campaigning has brought great benefits to the people of Peterborough. But I'm certain of one thing: the next MP for Peterborough must campaign to uphold Peterborough's referendum result, and also campaign to enhance its National Health Service provision. One out of the two is simply not good enough. Thank you. Now, any questions? Any questions from any of the journalists gathered here?
I'll talk to you later.
Yeah? Joel?
Yeah, I've got a few, that's all right.
Yeah, of course. Let's do them one at a time, shall we?
Yeah,
so I
no,
don't
that's
forget.
absolutely fine.
Or I don't get a chance to evade the difficult ones.
No, I wouldn't either. What makes you qualified to speak on behalf of Peterborough residents? What is your sort of association with the city, and how do you know about the issues there?
Right, well, I'm not Peterborough born and bred, but when I was elected as an MEP 5 years ago, I immediately marked out Peterborough as the place where I wished to be based, and spent the summer finding an office, as it turns out, right in the city centre in Bridge Street. I saw it as the most important city in the eastern counties, the largest population centre, and also a place where I knew that there was a strong preponderance of people who were persuadable to vote leave in any subsequent EU referendum. And by that stage, we hadn't got the EU referendum in the bag. We knew that Cameron had promised one if he became Prime Minister again, but it wasn't clear. But I knew it would be, from a point of view from Brexit. I knew the people of Peterborough generally, not all of them obviously, but generally felt the same way as I did, and that this would be an ideal place to base myself and to campaign. And since, across those 5 years, I've done many events in the city, held many public meetings at places like the Key Theatre, indeed here and other venues across Peterborough. I've kind of cooperated with local election campaigns. I was obviously supporting Mary Herdman just last week in Ithorney and Newborough. And I would say I've become a presence on the local political scene, making acquaintances partly through the referendum campaign with people from other parties, with the referendum campaign mostly in Peterborough. That was alongside the Conservatives as well. But I think, I am not someone who will just be parachuted in from outside the city. And I have taken the trouble to meet the city's leaders on issues like the National Health Service and take an interest in and indeed the economy. A recent meeting with the Chambers of Commerce. So I have immersed myself in the life of the city, and I've come to develop a great affection for it. So I'm not selling myself as a sort of born and bred Peterborough boy or anything like that. But I do say that I've actually taken an interest in the city, been based here for 5 years, and feel that I'm in a strong position to fight for its interests.
You mentioned Nigel Farage quite a lot in your speech. Is that because you're worried about him, or are you taking sort of an aim at him now early on?
Well, no, you see, I wish the Brexit Party, as I said, really well in the European elections. The SDP took a decision to step aside to really give the Brexit Party a clear run at those, and we think it will be great for Brexit if if most Leave voters vote for one badge, and that Nigel, with his profile on the issue of Brexit, is obviously in the strongest position to deliver a victory in the European elections for Leave. But, you know, Nigel now aspires to the House of Commons in large numbers, and yet he leads a party which doesn't have any policies at all beyond the single policy of Brexit. So on issues such as the economy, taxation, the National Health Service, a particular passion of mine, he's asking the electorate to take pot luck. And, you know, in the past he has said things, particularly about the NHS and about economics as well, which really pinpoint him on the Thatcherite right. And I think until the Brexit Party comes out with its policy positions, I'm not happy that it can be the best representative of the broad sweep of people who are in favour of leaving the EU, who are patriotic about their country. I think they're also patriotic about our National Health Service too. And as I say, I'm here with the SDP saying you can vote for a strong Brexit campaigner, but someone who will also campaign for your local public services. You know, if I can force the Brexit Party candidate to try and match up with that and them to come up with some sensible, moderate policies, I'll be happy with that. But I'm sceptical about that, because I'm not quite clear how the policy making process works in that party either.
And just as well, you mentioned the NHS quite a lot. In terms of education, crime, how aware are you of those issues in Peterborough? And
well, I think certainly on education, the school qualification standards here are across the board not as good as they should be. I don't think that's necessarily a fault of the leaders in education. I think we need a great community partnership there, with parents also signing up to a general raising of expectations. On the issue of law and order, we are seeing an upsurge in street crime. We have again, you know, the local force having to cope with a very fast growing population. And until certainly the last few months, you know, heavy cuts to manpower. Now, perhaps we're seeing an end to the cuts and a start of some degree of investment. But, you know, I hear things about the number of policing units and police cars available on a Friday night throughout Peterborough and the rest of the county of Cambridgeshire, and it makes me wonder that you know, if how few units were available was known, and they probably are known, why the criminal fraternity wouldn't think it had the whip hand, and perhaps unfortunately it does at the moment. So I think we in the SDP in general would like a bit more of an old-fashioned response to law and order, where we're on the side of the law-abiding majority, and we feel that all the parties in the House of Commons are a bit too focused on the needs of the offender, and that a bit of old-fashioned imprisonment for wrongdoing would be very much in order to help send the message out there that the criminals will not prevail over civilised society.
So you don't live in Peterborough. May I ask whereabouts you do live?
Yeah, I live in London and my family are in London. If I had the honour to be elected as MP for Peterborough, I would certainly come and live here.
I think someone else to go on.
Anybody else? Rob, you're content to wait till later?
Yes. I'm
right. Anyone else, sort of non-journalist in the room, want to throw in a question, or then, you know, I'm happy to answer that. Or should we say, oh, gentleman at the front,
it must be quite nice to be representing the party and not one of these pop-up parties that doesn't actually have any members or any policies or anything, and you are representing a growing membership, and
yeah,
I wish you well.
Well, and as William said, I think it's very important that we have a clear basis of ideas. We have a position in the new declaration set out that people have read and have come to the party if that speaks to what they believe in. So we're not going to randomly sort of hop around in opportunistic fashion. I'm not going to be snide about the so-called pop-up parties, or I think that actually what Nigel Farage has achieved on the European elections level with the Brexit Party, it's a very clean brand. He's got some good people doing his little films, and he's harnessed the mood of the country on that. But I am going to press them every inch of the way if they want to step into Peterborough parliamentary politics and ask them, you know, what do they think about the national healthcare provision, what do they think about law and order, and what do they think about the whole array of other issues, because, as I say, you can't get away with running a parliamentary election to elect an MP on one single issue.
I wasn't actually thinking of Brexit.
Are you thinking about Change UK and the 4 horizontal lines and what that might be? Well, you know, I'm not sure. John might know, or Rob might know. Have we got a Change UK candidate
I have
confirmed?
not confirmed or announced one.
Not confirmed.
Yeah.
They were in the odds, but they're not.
Well, I don't think doing all our schools we've done in recent weeks in Bridge Street by the town hall, I don't think we've encountered a Change UK supporter.
Not yet.
So that will be interesting. But obviously, parties should come and stand and give the electorate a choice. Right. Okay. Thank you ever so much, everyone. Thank you.